Buon pomeriggio, good afternoon, buonasera to our friends connected from Italy and benvenuti. Welcome to our webinar with Beppe Severgnini. Beppe Severgnini, acclaimed columnist and editor of Italy's largest circulation daily newspaper, Corriere della Sera. He created Italians in 1998, the longest running blog in the Italian media. He recently launched Photosintesi, a video column for Corriere TV. A long-time Italian correspondent for The Economist and a frequent contributor for the New York Times, he has traveled all over the world and he's author of 18 books, 5 published in America. Welcome, Beppe Severgnini, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. What a lovely smile. It's lovely to be welcome like this. Is actually the first it's not summer, but it's like, it feels like a summer night in Italy. I'm in Crema. The square that I describe in my book is over there. And I run away from home where my little niece, I have a brand new niece. I'm a granddad, so a nonno. I've been for 6 weeks. So happy Agatha is born and things are changing. So new book, new niece, what else do you want?
And I am Francesca Casazza, Executive Director and CEO of the Italian Cultural Society. And today I have the pleasure not only to introduce you to this webinar, but also to lead a conversation. Unfortunately, Lucia Wolf from the Library of Congress was supposed to be the person in conversation with Beppe, but she's sick, so we first of all wish her to recover soon and to feel better. And but at this point, you have to come to Washington to present in person at the Library of Congress. Lucia already told me that you are welcome. She already has your full collection, your books at the Library of Congress. All Beppe Severgnini's books are present. So for those of you who want to go. And so well, I'm very happy then to see you again and talk about this book that you introduced us to this book in September 2020 in occasion of our virtual gala. And when we were privileged to have the absolute preview of the translation of the titles, and you read us the first 19 titles. So, but today I would like to start reminding our audience about your bestseller in America, a New York Times bestseller, La Bella Figura, published in 2006, right? La Bella Figura, ecco,
here we are. I'm ready.
A field guide to the Italian mind, in which you present Italians with your background of a journalist, writer who knows many culture. And so after 15 years, you're giving us an update, a new self-portrait, an encouraging drawing of Italians and their changes, their good behavior during the pandemic, the resilience, and the spirit that in difficult situation comes out and is able to face the situation. So I know you're an optimist, so do I. It's important to always see the bright side of things, the full glass, the full half glass. And so what was the purpose of this book, and what are the major changes that you noticed in these 15 years in Italy and Italians?
All right. First of all, let me say that I use, in Italy, we have the same word for niece and granddaughter, and I use niece for nipote, but my nipote is a granddaughter. Here she is, Agatha.
Carina.
And nonno has, that's something I had to start with. She's lovely, and she's quiet at the moment. We'll see how it goes. Okay, let's say, I show you La Bella Figura, and I have them all here, and I sort of took them out of my book, down from my bookshelves. My first book in America was Ciao America. It's Georgetown, very much a Washington book, as some of you may remember. This book did really well. These 4 years later, 2006, did even better, and I'll get back to, because La Bella Figura is like it's Italian lessons, sort of elder sister in a way. Then in 2011, I had these, Mamma Mia, Berlusconi Explained for Posterity and Friends Abroad. Then Berlusconi faded somehow, but the book is here, as is my more political book. And in 2019, I had Off the Rails. Off the Rails, it's my travel around the world, including 2 long journeys across America, one from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon by train, the other from Washington, DC, where you are, to Washington State with my son, Antonio. At the time, he was, what, 20? And he's now 29, and is the dad is Agatha's dad. Okay. Let me answer your question quickly, because I love to have plenty of questions. I'm ready to answer them. You see, nations, just like people, just like Agatha, in a few weeks and months and years, in a year time, it will be difficult to recognize her. She'll be a 1 year old, a grown-up baby, and not a newborn, right? And the same thing with nations. Nations change. Sometimes they improve, sometimes they go back, sometimes they have crises, sometimes they lose their way and their soul. I mean, look what's happening now to Russia, a country that I know well. I've been living there. I don't know it as well as I know America or Britain. I live there, I speak your language, the language of the country in Russian. I just speak a little Russian, enough to shut up a couple of Russian journalists on Italian television when they were saying something so unbelievable that I had to step in. And I was very proud. And in Russian, I say, "Это неправда, это неправда, и вы знаете," vuol dire it's false, it's a lie, and you know it. So nations change, and this is my portrait of Italy in 2000 and mid-2000, 2006. This book, as you can see here, New York Times bestseller, did tremendously well, still sells pretty well. I find this book in sort of airports and bookstores around the world. I'm really proud. It's something that I really don't know how it happened, but it did happen to an Italian author. And I decided the portrait of a country, like a person. Italy has changed, has grown, went through many things, and I'll go through some of them. From a populist government to the end of the Berlusconi in power era, the attempt of a young Obamish, like Clinton-esque prime minister, Matteo Renzi, then the pandemic, then an experienced and well-known good international brand as Mario Draghi. So much has happened in these 16 years. I knew that the portrait had to be updated, and I did. And the book revolves about 50 reasons to be Italian. I want to be clear here for all the people that are listening, American, Italian, wherever. It's not, I've never said, I never thought that Italy is the best country in the world. I don't think there isn't. I mean, have you seen Francesca? The was a great TV series, one of the best, 10 years ago, called The Newsroom. It's a really super series about journalism. And the very opening scene in a university, I think Northwestern University, the anchorman called Will McAvoy, is asked, is America, is the United States the greatest country in the world? And he said, it could be, it's not. And then sort of hell breaks loose. And I remember that scene because I never, more or less, I gave the same answer when I'm asked about Italy. Yes, it could be, but definitely it's not. And I don't think there is such a thing as the best country in the world. It's a wrong approach for a writer, if I may, even for a citizen of any country. Otherwise, but every country, definitely Italy, for sure the United States, has so much to offer, has got a lot to learn, but a lot to teach. And I concentrated here on a few things, actually 50 things, 50, that Italy can teach the world, things that we are good at. So those long list of 50 reasons, we're going to go through them. I'm sure at least some of them,
of course,
in our conversation.
Oh yeah,
It's not like, you know, like jingoistic, you know, we are the best. We're not, but some things we're really good at.
We know.
Maybe it's interesting for people who love Italy. Okay, we can learn there as a society, but also as individual.
Yeah, and so there were a lot of changes in these last 15 years, but also since the last time we talked and since the Italian edition to the English edition, there was something even scarier than the pandemic. So this conflict, what would you have added in your book, if you could add something in your translation before it comes out, in light of this new conflict that is in Europe is, I mean, it scares more Europe than here.
Of course.
So,
because you're farther away. That the bottom line is that you're farther away, and distance has a lot to do with what is going on for many reasons, sort of geopolitically, strategically, literally physically, in terms of arms and threats and stuff. Okay, the book, Italian Lesson, here it is, newborn. I just got a copy yesterday, my first copy, physical copy. Was written during and after the pandemic. It has been updated like a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, not the war.
Okay.
But so I'll answer your question. But I think the answer to your question is in the very beginning of the book. I told you about the 50 reasons. And let me read the first two. Number one, 50 reasons to be Italian. Number one, because when everyone expects us to lose our cool, we find our strength. That happened during the pandemic. We'll go into that if you want later. But basically, everybody thought, including some American media who talked to me, interviewed me. I remember an interview with NPR that I quote in the book. Everybody expected Italy to just lose completely, lose it, and be, you know, it's too difficult to respect all those rules, the pandemic, you're going to lose it, and who knows what's going to happen. In fact, Italians turned out to be much more sort of cooler, calmer, and well-disciplined than everybody, including us, expected. Number two, because we are vulnerable when we think we are tough, and vice versa. And the war in Ukraine is a vice versa part. So during the pandemic, we thought we were vulnerable, and we turned out that we were tough. Now we thought with the war, we think we're so tough, but it turned out that we're more vulnerable, probably more so than any other country in Europe. In Russia, many Italians like Russia, know Russia, travel to Russia, deal with Russia. Russia, there is an artistic element, a streak in Russian psychology and behavior that Italians and Russians tend to get along. And what happened is like your cousin, your distant cousins goes mad, berserk. You don't understand what's going on. But before you come to the point of saying, you know, you're crazy, what you've done is horrendous. There is no excuse. For me, it took me 20 minutes. I wrote and said that what happened has no excuse whatsoever. But some Italians found it difficult. And Italy is I can see it on social network. I've been attacked many times when I speak on television, on writing Corriere della Sera. People accuse me of being, I say, no, you shouldn't take part between, and I say, you must be joking. What do you mean you shouldn't take part? We definitely are on the part of Ukraine, who has been assaulted in an awful, vicious, unexplicable and unexcusable way. period. We are on the side of Ukraine. There's no excuse. Putin is mad. Call it a war criminal. Call a man who has some like a paranoid dictator. Never mind. But that's what we're talking about. My many Italians disagree with me and try to find some excuses. And the classical one is, we don't want war. And I say, of course, I don't want war either. But what do you do? If you see a country being raped, not far, Ukraine is 8 hours drive from Trieste. It's not that far. What do? You say, oh no, we're against war. Yes, okay, we all are. And then what? So the pandemic, I was surprised by Italy's resilience, strength, attitude. Now I'm a little worried, but slowly I think the majority is coming to terms with this awful reality. But yeah. Sorry for the long answer, but it was a difficult question.
I was suspecting something like that because, last week we had Premier Draghi here. He was awarded for his outstanding leadership by the Atlantic Council, and was lucky enough to be there. And so he really marked up the silver lining of this situation, if there is one. But if there is one, is for sure the stronger bond between Europe, Italy, and the United States.
Maybe absolutely, as long as we
are agreeing in this agreement, we are.
Now, most Italians, not all, but most Italians agree with me that as long as Europe, the European Union, and Italy is a founding father, is a founding member of the European Union. So the European Union and the United States stick together. On television the other day, I say, don't worry, in the end, we're gonna come out on top, because democracy will prevail. And I've been attacked as I was saying something blasphemous. They say, what? I'm saying that I believe in democracy and I think democracy are strong. We should be careful that, because Putin and that kind of Russian leadership is very good in sort of driving a wedge. Can I say that? Between allies, and it's happening now with Finland and what's going on. So, and therefore the United States must understand that when we say we want this massacre to stop and the fighting to stop, it's not that we want to forgive the Russians or appease the Russian. It's just that it's so close home, but to stop the fighting is the first move that everybody should agree with, I think, at the moment.
I think so.
But the Russians don't, so it's a... But my point, you're right, absolutely. I stress that in the newspaper, in my newspaper, on televisions, on social network, that I believe that the United States and Europe are, as long as we are together, I feel safe. Let's put it this way. We are married. We are like, not you and I, but like the United States and Europe, we are married. And I think we may have our sort of misunderstandings, quarrels, silences, but we are a solid couple in the end.
Yeah, and it's a good time for Italians here. We are all very proud of the Atlantic Council recognizing this award to Draghi and Descalzi, Foreni. And so it's a good...
Absolutely. Don't forget what Italy and Europe went through between 2017 and 2020. Given the American leadership of the time, President Trump was another shock, not a different kind of shock, but to be, I remember I was like, I couldn't believe it when he used the word foe to describe the European Union. I'm quoting, I'm a journalist, I know what I'm saying. He used the word foe. And that scared me, because I said, come on, I've seen American Democratic president, Republican presidents, some I like, some I didn't like, who cares? But I never heard an American president, no American president, to describe Europe as a foe. American democracy is born out of Europe, or now is wider, richer, interesting, and it's not only European. Europe is a part of the big American pie, but to describe Europe as a foe,
he said many things inappropriate, but
yeah, but that
so,
one's heavy.
we can go back to the book and actually
Make sure it doesn't come back.
Yes, yeah, we pray every day for that. Anyway, the book, I was so I still yeah, as you just received the American the English version, I still with the Italian, and I was wondering, was it always easy for the Californian translator to grasp what you meant in these lessons, or there were some parts that you had to explain what you meant that was harder to understand for an American, and which parts and why?
Well, Tony Sugar is a super translator. He translated Gianni Rodari, many Italian writers, Calvino, many like writers that are so much better and greater than me. So he's like a superstar of Italian translation. And I have one advantage compared to those great writers that I quote you, say like Rodari or Calvino, that I'm alive. Here I am for the time being. So he can talk to me and we can discuss things. And we did. He speaks good Italian. Sometimes we speak Italian, sometimes we speak English, depends. But like we can sort of analyze and fine tune every word, because my English is good enough. I mean, I write in English. When I write for the New York Times, I used to write between 2013 and 21. I wrote like 8-10 columns a year. I wrote in English for the Economist. So my English is good enough to talk to I don't translate my own book, just to be sure. But so it was actually easier, not more difficult. It was tough when my books were translated in languages that I don't know. I still don't know what my Bengali translation say. I don't know. I just found out that my book was this thin in Calcutta, and I say, "What have you done?" And my translator very nicely and suavely said, "Well, I here or there I sum it up a bit." So the book was this thing.
Yeah.
And in Russian, I had the translation of La Bella Figura in Russian. Yeah. Apparently it was a disaster. And I didn't know until a friend of mine, who was a Russian translator, she lives and works in Oxford, England, and she read the book and she said, "Beppe, the translation is an absolute sham, a disaster." And she pointed out 200 mistakes. And I said, "Oh my God." And then he's been retranslated. I was in Moscow 2018 for the book fair, and there was another book. Someone came up with a brand new book. I didn't know a thing about it. No, I think I saw royalties. Oh, it's so nice to be a writer and go around the world and have.
I see, because the book is about the characteristic of the culture. And so you need to know the culture. And so I was wondering if the cultural differences was the hard part for some lessons. But yeah, of course, a great translator also knows well enough the culture to interpret.
But to sort of, I'll sort of finish my answer. Of course, if you write for a foreign audience, I mean, the book is actually quite different from Neo Italiani, the Italian title. The book has changed. I mean, there are many things change. The list is absolutely the same. The 50 reasons to be Italian are the same, as some have been enlarged, others have been reduced, others have been changed. Most all of them have been updated. So it's actually quite a different.
Okay, you did change something in this hard.
Quite a different. So do read it in English. You'll find a lot of surprises. And of course, writing for an American audience, you have to translate everything. Let's say you mentioned Mario Draghi. You have to say Mario Draghi, comma, the Italian Prime Minister. Sergio Mattarella, comma, the Italian President of the Republic. it's not that, you know, if you, my reader, I mean, I have readers in all over the United States, so proud of that. And I don't expect them to know who's the prime minister in charge and the name of the president of the republic. You love Italy, you want to read about Italy, you live in Dallas, or you live in Tacoma, or you name it, in Cleveland. I mean, a writer should tell you, I mean, it's no big deal, you know, Mario Draghi, comma, the prime minister, comma. That's it. In Italy, I don't do Mario Draghi, comma, the prime minister, because most people know, actually all people know.
Yeah, a good translation.
A good translation knows that. He knows what our readership, because it's mine and his, our readership in the United States knows and doesn't know. So he actually fine-tuned the translation to make it easy.
So to enter in the heart of the book, I remember I was at the Festival della Comunicazione in Camogli in 2020, and you had this original way to present in an interactive way with the audience. So there are 50 lessons, 50 titles, and so you asked the audience, give me a number, and then the left, probably you said the right side said the even number, and the other side the odd number. So it was very fun. I don't remember the details, but I would like to start with some numbers. So maybe we ask the audience a number from 1 to 50, and so that you can explain the content of this lesson. Maybe I'll start with one that I like. It's the number 24, because wine is a sentimental education and espresso is a truce.
Because wine is a sentimental education. I love that number 24. It's one of my favorite. Actually, that has been changed quite a lot from the Italian edition, but let me read. Actually, it's a Washington. Can I read it from the book? It happens to be a Washington anecdote.
You see, I got the right one.
Wine is not just, you know, drinking wine is not just an Italian family attitude, it's also a source of national pride. When I'm in the United States, I always order a glass of wine with lunch, especially business lunches, like Washington DC, typical. I make it a point of pride. I love to see the look of concern in the eyes of my fellow diners. Their embarrassed silence seems to hiss, "You are an alcoholic." At that point, pausing to build a drama, I prepare my theatrical declaration. "Ladies and gentlemen," I declaim, "who of you is going to down a martini this evening, followed by another, and then why not a third martini? Never hurt anybody, right? Who are we going to have to drive home after dinner because they can barely stand up? Who's going to head back to the hotel and then starting hitting the minibar? Is that likely to be an Italian or an American? Will it be me or one of you?" Oh, I love doing that. It's as my answer to your question.
All right, let's see. Oh, I see number 8. From Angela Manci.
Because we do learn one way or another. Okay, I won't read from the book now. I'll just pick an example. Italy is still on a learning curve of some kind, and forget what people say, like boasting, we know everything, we are, that don't, you know, that's little. Every country has got this jingoistic moment, but forget about them. Italy learned from mistakes very quickly. I do believe that electing a populist government in 2018, formed by the Northern League, a separatist, populist, anti-European, drastically anti-European Northern League, not Northern League, together with a five-star movement, which is, by the way, both of them kind of like President Trump. It was, I don't think it was a good idea. And but my American friends and colleagues, including the New York Times, said, Beppe, I mean, it's going to be the end of the Italian democracy. I said, no, of course not. It's going to be the end of Europe, because you have one important country run by forces that are proudly anti-European. I say, no, forget. But that's what they're saying. And I say, don't look what they're saying. Look what they will be doing, what they are doing, and what they will do. In fact, I was right. In fact, they sort of toned down the declaration, and I mean, they didn't last very long. But in those, what was it, couple of years, year and a half, nothing dramatic happened. They found a way of living with it. So not only those politicians learned a little, some of them learned a lot. Our foreign ministers, the equivalent of your Secretary of State, is a young man. Luigi Di Maio, he is the leader of the five-star populist movement. He's now solidly pro-Atlantic American democracy and the European Union. He went full circle. I knew he would get there.
Everybody grows.
And surprising, yes, everybody said, how is that possible? I knew. So not only ministers sometimes learn, but even people. You see, Italy has got so many, went through so much in let's say, until the end of the Roman Empire. So we're talking 18th century, 17th centuries. I mean, it's a long time. And we saw so much, we went through so much: dominations, madmen, dictators, revolutions. We've been invaded by Spanish, French, Germans, Austrians. We had not invaded, but we had Americans over here, British, you name it. It was like like M Street in Washington, DC, and sort of lunchtime. Everybody is, and Italy is has seen it all, and in a way is wise beyond. Sometimes we don't realize how wise we are. It's the only country that actually is number 3 of my list here. Let me read it. So we go from number 8 to number 3. I love number 3. Because we can be serious about things, but we hate to admit it. You tell an Italian, well, you're serious. What a serious country you are. We complain. Come on, we're not serious. We are an eclectic, bizarre, unpredictable, even unreliable country. Italians take pride in their lack of discipline, and they are offended if you tell them that discipline is the only country in the world where this happens. That's why it makes it so interesting to live here.
And then we have number 17 from Richard.
But do they say why they want number 17 or not?
No. If there is somebody who already read the book either in Italian or in English that wants to talk about a specific
number 17.
Good, but we'll learn.
Because our children see the future, and now and then they explain it to us. I always have great confidence in Italian new generations. I have a son, now we're also dad, but he's my son, he's 29. I had nieces that not Agatha, granddaughter, like nieces, plenty of nieces and nephews, like 27. I stopped counting them. And I have younger colleagues, some of them I help them to grow, and they are my pupils, if I may, because I really work with them to pull them into journalism. I know many people in their 20s and early 30s, and I think they really are an impressive generation who had a really tough time, because they were teenagers when September 11 happened, and September 11 changed the mood, not only in the United States, but everywhere. Because in a way, the world became more suspicious, more bitter, more difficult. And then the financial crisis, you remember, Lehman Brothers and all that follow. You are too young, but it happened, and that again was traumatic. And then they had international terrorism, which really affected their life and their movement around. Then they had the pandemic. Now they have a war. I mean, what else do you want if you are 31 or 32? And they are tough. They learn. They deal with us in a very mature way. The relation between my generation and our children is spectacularly good. I know it sounds bizarre, but Italians, parents, get along with their children on the whole extremely well. Not some of them, like 98% of Italian children, grown-up children, like the parents, like to spend time. You know what happened tonight? Antonio and Benedetta, they say, oh, we're gonna have dinner. We're a long time we don't go and have dinner together. Here it is. Here she is. And they handed over Agatha and Hortensia and I with this baby. And off they went. I never do that with my parents, ever. It was like inconceivable. But that's normal in Italy. The relation are, ring the bell, take the baby, we're gonna have dinner. Here we are. And we love it, of course. And I describe this relation, the fact that those young men and women, because that's what they are now, they're not boys and girls anymore, but they really taught us a lot of things to deal with new technologies, new computers, new phone, new, if I have a problem with television, phone, iPhone, you name it, Antonio comes and fixes it in 2 seconds. For me, it takes 2 hours. They really are, they are resilient. And it's extraordinary that a man at age 29, or my young colleagues at Corriere della Sera, they are sort of young women, 30, 34, 33, they actually, those people, they taught us to be resilient. Not us, them, us. That's why I say, I'm actually quite pleased with this answer. I never gave this answer, but exactly what is going on. We have a lot to learn. Some of us realize and acknowledge that, if you want, to the younger generation. Some don't. They think they keep moaning, but moaning is actually number. Let me see. Moaning. Oh, number 44. Because we have elevated complaining to an art form, is one of my favorite. Because we've elevated complaining to an art form. Number 44.
Yeah.
Ready?
Perché abbiamo elevato il lamento a forma d'arte in Italian.
Abbiamo elevato il lamento a forma d'arte. Sì. And in English, yes, because we've elevated complaining to an art form.
I love that. Yes, so somebody asked what's the book in Italian. It's Neo-Italiani. Well, now you see the mirror, so Neo-Italiani anyway. And Marisa is asking if the Italian and English versions are very different, which would you recommend?
The English one, to be honest. The book you have is 2020. The paperback of that book already has changed 2021. Because if you write a book that has started and works around the pandemic and things that are sort of current affairs, those books tend to be, La Bella Figura has not been updated, but the early 2000s was sort of quite a time. So I didn't change the book. I thought, let's wait and write another one. But this book was completely different. So my advice is either you buy the Italian paperback, Neo-Italiani, the paperback 2021, or even better, you get the American book, because I say this has been updated until the spring of 2022. And things have changed in the book because things have changed in Italy.
The world and in Italy.
And the world.
Yes, and so Marisa.
It's a cool, Francesca, tell me something. Isn't it cool? It's my American publisher. It's actually Vintage, part of Penguin Random House. I love it. I think it's great.
The Little Angels, I putti, bellissimo. Sì, absolutely. And so Marisa was asking, well, you already answered, what are the essential difference between the Italian and English editions? You said Italy changed, the world changed. I don't know if you want to add something. Then, okay, we have a question in Italian. A che punto della sua carriera di scrittore?
No, I can see them, but do read them. I can see them next to me.
Ok, ok. A che punto della sua carriera di scrittore ti sei sentito più a tuo agio scrivendo in inglese invece che in italiano?
The question is, there was some point of my career when I felt more at ease writing in English than in Italian. Actually, never. I'm a writer, and every writer, if you're not Joseph Conrad or Nabokov, you write in your own languages, in your own language. But maybe yes, when I write, I mean, writing about economics and politics and finance, probably I have more vocabulary in English than in Italian, because 7 years of, Italian correspondent from Italy for The Economist actually is a long time. And then, yeah, some topics I feel more at ease in Italian, because in Italian I write about politics, but I talk about politics and international on television. But in Corriere della Sera, I cover more like politics plus society plus sort of a kind of an area where society, politics, international affairs, even technology, new fact, sort of they overlap. I cover that area overlap. I love that. I think it's journalistically it's very fertile.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to answer this question? Fratelli d'Italia, the near extreme right-wing party, is now the first one in Italy, according to polls. What do you make of this?
I think they are the only party, Fratelli d'Italia, Brothers of Italy, they are the only party on opposition, and that helps, of course, because everybody in this is national unity government, and that to be on opposition, you have a kind of dividend for that. We'll see how it goes. Berlusconi allowed his party, Forza Italia, to there is a word in English, how do you say, appassire? Wilt. That's correct, wilt?
Yeah, somebody from the audience. I also don't get the word right now. Yes.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I know words that I don't know. I know. Yeah. Okay. So Berlusconi, thank you, allowed for his party. I mean, his own creation. He paid for it, created it, motivated it, did everything with it, including something that I want to talk about. I won't talk about here, but it's like shrinking and dwindling. How many words do I know? All the time. And it's now not the League, Matteo Salvini League was the largest party in terms of consensus, according to the polls, have also is sort of on the sort of downhill, not dramatically, but definitely is beyond this sort of the top, is going down. And even on the other side, the five-star movement, Movimento 5 Stelle, I mean, I don't know whether they are on the other side, but definitely they are somewhere. They are dwindled, and they are smaller, and they are quarreling, and lots of them left the party, got back, formed splinter parties. So and they represented the protest. We don't like what we're seeing. We don't like, we have salaries are not, we have inflation, we have electricity and gas that cost more. We have petrol, gas, you call it gas, we call it petrol, benzina, that cost more. And kind of that sentiment and that rage in politics must go somewhere. And the party best equipped to collect that outrage, that frustration, if you want, is now Fratelli d'Italia. Will it last until the election early next year? We'll see. I hope they won't get into power, but again, if they do, I expect my American colleagues and my British colleagues and my German colleagues to write, oh, Italy is now a fascist country, a new Orban. Don't worry. We change our leaders. They don't change us. Trust me. And I know that there'll be enough pressure, including with some of the voters who say, no, we are European, we are American allies, we don't want to be Putin's poodles.
Yeah, and hopefully.
So I hope it won't happen, but even if it happens, before you panic, wait. That's a good line. Yeah. In Italy, before you panic, take your time.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, we are optimists, aren't we? And here we have, hello, Jack and Christine Giraudo here. What will happen to Draghi in the next year or two? How will Italian politics evolve over the next 12 months and the next legislative elections? Thank you. We are all friends of Beppe.
Yes, hi. I know, Christine. How are you? Jack and Christine, they thought I was coming to Washington for this talk, and they said, "Oh, we should get together." And I said, "No, he's online."
Yeah.
Okay. But lovely to see you. Now, Christine, let's put it this way: Draghi I think, will last somehow until early next year. But you can see already that the electoral campaign has started. The same in America. I mean, it starts long before the election, and you can see that parties are jockeying for positions already. Can I say, it's a British expression, can I say that in America is understandably jockeying for position, taking position before the race. They all are. I don't think the jockeying they'll take jockeying for position so far as to bring down the government, because they know it's not in their interest. So they'll just claim and have a little argument on this, on that, try to make a point of this, a point of that. So we're going to have complicated next few months. But again, in Italy, the situation, it's sometimes dramatic, but it's not serious. That's a classic situation. May look dramatic. I don't think it'll be entirely serious in terms of Draghi. For sure, he many people expected, some hoped that he would go to Quirinale as a new president of the Republic, which is very different, of course, to an American president, but he's powerful and it's a very important role nonetheless. So he didn't go there. I expect Draghi to step down gently, say, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. I'm 74, going to 75. I don't think he's going to run for office. He was the head of the European Central Bank, the Prime Minister of Italy. I expect him to get maybe some kind of sort of wise man role in Europe of some kind, because he's known, he's well respected, he speaks languages. So that's how I see. But I saw him like I wrote a book in Italy in the meantime, a book with General Francesco Paolo Figliolo, is our commissioner for the COVID emergency. Actually, he did a tremendous job, and writing a book with him was also my way of saying thank you. This book won't be translated. It's called Un Italiano. And with General Francesco Figliolo is a 4-star general. Actually, it's a good sport. We kind of enjoyed writing the book together. I never wrote a book with another person, but I decided to do this. And we went we went to see Draghi and give him the book. And so we had a chat. Of course, it's a private conversation, but all I can tell you is that Draghi seemed reasonably relaxed. I mean, how you can be relaxed being the chief executive of a country during a war, but definitely a man in control, which makes me happy, to be honest.
Yeah. makes us feel at least that we have somebody that we can count.
I'll get a copy. I'll show you something.
Yeah.
That's a book I was telling you about.
Di Figliolo.
And that's me and General Figliolo.
Okay.
But that's an Italian book. Not for translation. It's but too deep. But there is a page about General Figliolo and his role, and was not, of course, in that book because he was, but because he had such an important role in Italy, there is something about him in here.
Okay. So, well, do you think Draghi will have the necessary support going forward? You talk about what you think about what.
Yes, I think so. I think he'll have the necessary support, just enough. Not because he's a kind of streetwise statesman, if I may say so. Like, he knows that the different parties have to sort of take a stand, make a point, make a fuss. He considered part of the physiology of democracy in a time like this. I hope they won't go too far, because if we lose Draghi now, it'll be a real problem, but it won't happen.
Yeah. I think the majority.
About politics, there is more about politics, a little bit more than here. The government and how Italian politics is seen from abroad is towards the end. Like the 2 or 3, the final lessons. Let me read you at least a title.
Yes, you pick the lessons you want to give us now.
Big 45, because we love to baffle those who judged us. 46, because we know that sometimes those who judge us are right. And one of my favorite is number 49, because we are what others would love to be, but don't dare. Because we are what others would love to be, but don't dare. There's a lot of truth here, believe me.
Yeah, the Italian is perché siamo quello che gli altri vorrebbero essere e non osano. Yes. Not
always, but there is an element of, those Italians, they seem to be at ease with their families, with their life, with their food, with their wine, with their sort of physicality, with the sense, more so. And I notice it, definitely my Northern European friends, I have many British friends and Swedish or Polish friends. When they come over, I can see a kind of envy, not of everything, but of these. They seem, in my closest friend, they even tell me, you seem at ease, more at ease with situation, other people, less embarrassed. And I think it's a great compliment. It's one of the Italian lessons is actually this, that the point I was made, number 49, because we are what others would like to be, but don't dare. That's all I mean. It's not that we are better or anything, but sometimes people would love to be, and I want to go and talk to that person. I want to say something. I want to show my feelings without, drinking 2 gin and tonics. I want to do it, and because I feel like doing it.
And Marisa is asking if there is anyone that can, at the same level of Draghi, for replacing him.
Say that again?
Is there anyone on his level, on Draghi's level, for this eventual replacement?
No.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then also, I missed the name of the book, not translated. Can you please, Figliolo? Okay.
Un italiano.
Un italiano. Okay. And then, ok, grazie. Ho già risposto. So I think if you want to add something that you wanted to tell us in particular, I wanted to conclude saying that thank you for this book, because really collects Italian culture and in all his aspects. So in the book, we read about family, children, our houses, our healthcare system, our food and wine. So it's a good way to understand who we are, and it's fun to read. So
Yeah, but Francesca, let me add something.
Yes.
I think we have 2 or 3 more minutes. I want to make sure these and La Bella Figura are not the sort of books about Italy, you know, the enchanted gardens and full of olive tree and lemons and lovely plumbers that looks like George Clooney. Not that kind of book. The Tuscan countryside, not that kind of book. If you want that book, this is not the book. But I think it gives you the flavor, the charm, even the sexiness of Italy without going into stereotypes. I'm Italian. I know your country pretty well, America, and I think you deserve better than that. Not a little fairy tale, but like Italy is interesting and sexy without going into the sort of stereotypes and fairy tale. When we do this to finish, we read quickly the first, just 15 out of 50. You start, I'll start in English and then you go with the Italian. 50 Reasons for Being Italian by Beppe Severgnini and Francesca Casazza. I'll read the English and she reads the Italian. Number 1, because when everyone expects us to lose our cool, we find our strength.
Perché quando tutti si aspettano che ci agitiamo, restiamo calmi.
Because we are vulnerable when we think we're tough and vice versa.
Perché siamo fragili quando pensiamo d'essere forti e viceversa.
Because we can be serious about things, but we hate to admit it.
Perché sappiamo essere seri, ma lo ammettiamo malvolentieri.
Because we are unpredictable, but not unreliable.
Perché siamo imprevedibili, se non diventiamo inaffidabili.
Because we make gallant gestures. Good behavior, we're still working on that.
Perché siamo capaci dei bei gesti. Sui buoni comportamenti ci stiamo lavorando.
Because the rest of the world looks at you. Italians see you.
Perché nel mondo ti guardano, in Italia ti vedono.
Because we find unexpected heroes.
Perché troviamo eroi insospettabili.
Because we do learn one way or another.
Perché impariamo, volenti o nolenti.
Because we've seen practically everything, the rest we imagine.
Perché abbiamo visto quasi tutto e il resto lo immaginiamo.
Because in time we let our resentments go.
Perché arriva il momento in cui spegniamo il risentimento.
Because we are self-critical as long as we don't become self-defeating.
Perché siamo autocritici, se non diventiamo autolesionisti.
Because many speak, some listen, but everyone understands.
Perché molti parlano, alcuni ascoltano, ma tutti capiscono.
Because every so often we do embarrassing things and we know it.
Perché ogni tanto facciamo cose imbarazzanti, ma lo sappiamo.
Number 14, and we stop here, because when we speak a lot, we say very little, and the other way around.
Perché quando parliamo poco, diciamo molto, e viceversa.
Okay, today I spoke a lot, and I hope I say at least something, not very little. Thank you for having me, Francesca.
Thank you. We'll see you in Camogli.
Absolutely, and say hello to Lucia. Get well soon, eh?
Yes. And next time, Lucia will be happy to welcome you at the Library of Congress. And let's see if there is, okay, thank you. So the messages are now, thank you. And so with our audience, our next appointment is at the gala, June 10th at the Italian Embassy. The theme is fashion industry this time. And the honorary guest will Domenico De Sole, previous CEO of Gucci Group. So thank you, everyone. Beppe, June.
Bring my books to the embassy.
You're welcome.
Bring my books to the embassy and say hello to all of them.
Yes.
And I'm coming. Sooner or later, I'm coming.
Yes, we are waiting for you. Good
Arrivederci.
evening, everyone. Grazie Beppe, arrivederci a tutti.